Hello, students. Now we will begin with the third poem of our syllabus, that is Keeping Quiet, written by Pablo Neruda. Now, this is a very deep, reflective, philosophical poem where the poet advocates the importance of silence, which will help us to achieve communal harmony, mutual respect, and hence we will be better persons as individuals, and the society will also be better at large. Okay, now we have to understand the philosophical trigger that is embedded here. So the poet is is an anti-war poet. Okay, he does not believe in the occurrence of war. He believes that war is futile, and in order to save ourselves from any kind of conflict, instead of blaming others or instead of pointing the fingers at others, we should introspect within ourselves what we are doing and how we can better ourselves. And that introspection can be achieved only through silence and not dialogue or conflict or chaos. Hence, the poet appeals to the readers to keep quiet and think about the actions and reactions that they have been doing all throughout their lives, how their actions uh, have means have resulted into the loss of the other forces, other counteracting forces. Okay, let us begin. Pablo Neruda was born in the town of Parral. His poems are full of easily understood images which make them no less beautiful. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. In this poem, he talks about the necessity of quiet introspection and creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. Okay, now why does he say that, or why does he want that to happen? Let's see. Or how does he say that? Let's read the poem first. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us when, when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now, I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Let us analyze the poem line wise. Okay? So the poet begins by saying that let us count till 12. Now, 12 is a very symbolic number here. Okay, what are the symbols that have been hidden by the use of the word 12? We all know there are 12 months, which means the nature cycle never stops. It goes on and on and on. Continuity of life. We know there are 12 hours in a day, 12 hours of daytime active life, and 12 hours of the evening time. So we can say, if we are talking about talking from the perspective of active work time, it is the first 12 hours. All right. And also we know 12, there are 12 zodiac signs which determine our fate and destiny. All right. Also, there is another interpretation is that the 12 apostles that is there in the Christianity, that is the 12 disciples who had followed the the Christian beliefs. Okay. Now, hence, this is the significance of the use of the term 12. Okay, let us count to 12. So it's like it's a it is a meditation time where uh, should close our eyes and we should just count till 12. Okay, and we will all keep still. Then he begins by saying, for once on the face of earth, let's not speak in any language. That means what? Let us not fight any linguistic conflict. That means what? See, in today's times, there have been many wars, battles, conflicts based on because of languages, supremacy of language. One part of the people want to want to declare or want to assert the supremacy of their native language by suppressing the other language. So this is one of the trigger points of conflicts. In India also we know there has been historically there has been instances where there were many conflicts because of the language barriers. Right. So the poet says, let us not speak in any language. That means let us remove these linguistic barriers within ourselves, among ourselves. Let us not think of our own language to be the most superior and others' language to be the inferior. The moment we realize this, there will not be any language conflict. All right. Now, this can be achieved only when we introspect within ourselves. You have read the last lesson. The Germans suppressed the French language. Had the Germans introspected, just like following Pablo Neruda's advocation, introspects within themselves and would have asked that, am I doing it correct? Is it true that our language is the most superior and their language is the inferior one? If any person does this introspection within their mind, within his or her mind, he or she will realize the mistake and will vow to never repeat it, and hence it will be a better world overall. Okay. The next two lines he says, let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. This is an example of pun. That means what? Let us not be indulged in any kind of activity. Let us not do any activity. Move our arms means we all know the hands, the arms, the main organs that help us do our own work, right? So he is promoting the importance of quietness, importance of silence. Let us not do any work, let us not move our arms, but at the same time this is a word of play. Why is it called a pun? Because the word arms can mean two different things. One, the hand, the organ, and the other one can be weapons. So he says, let us not indulge in any kind of fight. Let us not fight with one another. Let us not be violent towards one another. And if we can do that, we will become better person. Okay. And again, I repeat myself, he says that all these things can be achieved only when we can be still and count to 12. That means we can be silent and introspect. Coming to the next stanza, what would happen according to him? What would happen if we can achieve this? Okay. He says it would be an exotic moment. Exotic means what? Exotic means very strange, mysterious moment. Okay, strange mystery would be there. where there is no rush of work, no engines running, and suddenly everyone will be together in a sudden strangeness. You can recall, to understand this aspect, you can recall the COVID 19 pandemic time when the world had gone to complete, when the country had gone to complete standstill, right? There was no rush, there was no engine, and even if we did not know each other, the entire population of our nation had become together at that time. We were united. So exotic moment is the moment of silence, where there would be no rush, no engines, and there will be we would all be together, means there would be unity. We would all be together, there would be unity, and it would be a strange world and a beautiful world. All right. Next effect, what does he say? What will happen? He says that the fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. Now we all know he is talking about the marine exploitation. Now this is a very well known fact, an unavoidable fact, that we are exploiting the ecosystem for our own ends, right? Whatever is needed, we are hunting more than that. So if everyone keeps silent and think of introspect within themselves, then the fisherman who represents the capitalist class, okay, they will stop harming the whales, so they will stop the exploitation of the marine ecosystem. All right, the sea ecosystem. And this is the labor class. This labor class, that means the salt gatherers, the people, the men who gather salt. Now we all know salt is, when unrefined, in its unrefined state, is a very rough coarse text, has a very rough coarse texture, and it is very hurtful to the hands, right? So the poet says that the labors, the people who are indulged in the physical labor, will also stop and look at their hurt hands. They will understand the physical and emotional damage that they have inflicted in themselves or on themselves, right? And they will realize that, is this that much necessary, that I have to earn my living at the cost of my own life? Is there any other way? So introspection will help us question our actions and reactions, and how can we better ourselves, how can the actions be made better. Moving on to the most important stanza of the poem. Now, here the poet talks about the warmongers. Who are the warmongers? Warmongers means war perpetrators. One who one who believes that war is the only solution. One who wants to continue with the concept of war. Okay. He mentions about three kinds of war. Those who prepare green wars. Green wars means environmental wars, wars with the environment. Okay, that is, we are cutting down the trees on the name of development, right? We are cutting down the trees on the name of, our own development. Whenever it is a nuisance to us, we are cutting down the trees. So that is the environmental war. Wars with gas means nuclear war. Okay, the atomic wars. Wars with fire, we know this: bombs, grenades, shellings, this guns, ammunitions, etc. Now, all these wars, what is the single impact? The single impact of these wars is victory is there, but there is no survivors left to enjoy the victory. This is an irony. So we all know, when there is a war, even if a country wins, it is in actuality not a victory. Maybe it's a territorial victory, political victory, regional victory, whatever. But people have lost their lives in both the sides. Some wives have been widowed, some children have been orphaned, some mothers have lost their children, in both the countries, in both the nations that have indulged themselves into the war. So victory is there, but there are no survivors left to enjoy the victory. All right. So the poet says, if we keep quiet and count to 12 and keep silent and introspect within ourselves, even the warmongers, just like the people who have been fighting for languages, just like the fishermen, just like the salt gatherers, similarly, the warmongers will also put on clean clothes. This is a metaphor. Clean clothes means what? Uh, no bloodshed is there, so no bloodshed, no violence. You can understand putting on clean clothes means they are going to have a renewed self, renewed, better, non-violent self. Okay, they would put on clean clothes, walk about with their brothers. Who are these brothers? These brothers are nobody but enemies. Their previous enemies will become their brothers, and both the parties will walk with one another in the shade doing nothing. This is so important and so marvelous concept that the poet says that if we introspect, we will understand that enemies are not our enemies. They are not foreign to us. They are our brothers. And hence we can achieve which one? Which ism, which quality? It is universal brotherhood. That means universal fraternity. We will be able to achieve mutual respect and mutual harmony among one another. Okay. Next, now the poet is telling that, see, when I told you to be inactive, I have not told you to be uh, completely inactive. Okay, I am not saying to the youngsters that don't do anything, because life is all about activity. Life Activity is the essence of life. The poet does not want us, the readers, to confuse that the poet is talking about death. Now we all know total inactivity means death. Okay, where when a person is completely inactive, the poet is clarifying very vehemently here that he is not talking about death. He is not talking about total inactivity. He is talking about partial inactivity. That is, mentally you should be active, but physically you should be inactive. Mental, physical stillness, but mental activity. Okay, so the poet says, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Total inactivity means death. Life is what it is about. That means activity is the essence of life. We cannot deny that. I want no truck with death. That means what? The poet does not want his philosophy, his preachings to be associated with death. Okay, he is not advocating that. He is clearly mentioning. And then the poet points this to us in a very strong manner, and this is so true. What does the poet say? The poet is saying that if we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Now, students, these lines are a bit confusing. Please pay attention to these. The poet says that he is trying to tell that do we know ourselves? Do we understand ourselves? If I Right now, if I ask you a simple question, who are you? You will say uh, the normal things, and your name, address, school, class, etc. But then if I repeat that, okay, I understand, but who are you? what will you say? You will have to think before giving that answer. Why? Because we have not understood ourselves. We have failed to understand ourselves, our strength, our weaknesses, how we can be better, what actions are we are doing that is causing loss or harm to another. We have failed to understand ourselves. Okay, and why have we failed? Because constantly at the back of our mind we have the concept of death. Okay, and we are selfishly, self-centeredly moving ahead to achieve the materialistic things in our lives. We need today we need to score marks to then we need to top the class, then we need to give the entrance examination, we need to get an admission into the college, then get a job, get a house, get a bike, get a car, even do the trips that I want. All these materialistic things are crammed into our minds. Why? Because at the back of our minds, subconsciously, we all know that we will definitely die someday. And hence, zindagi na milegi dobara. So, in this one zindagi, in this one life, we have to achieve these things, and we are selfishly, self centeredly moving towards that, and we are doing that so desperately that we have forgotten to ask ourselves the basic question: who are we? What are we? How are we? Okay, and the moment you realize that you have failed to understand the existence of yourself, your fundamental essence, that would not be a very happy thought. I hope, right? If you suddenly realize that whatever my teacher has asked me, why couldn't I tell about myself? That is a very upsetting thought. That is a sad thought. And how can that sadness be removed? That sadness can be removed with the silence that Pablo Neruda is telling us to absorb, to take in. So he says, if we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, okay, that means be inactive and think. Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness. Which sadness? The sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Every time we are being threatened with the concept of death. So, before that arrives, we have to achieve the materialistic things, and hence we have failed to understand ourselves, and that is a very sad predicament of human beings, sad condition of human beings. In order to interrupt that sadness, we have to in order to interrupt that sadness, we have to be quiet, count till 12, and that silence will help us recover from that sadness. We will understand that this is something that should be changed. We have introspected and we have understood it. Alright, I hope this part is clear. Coming to the last part of the poem, this is the didactic part where the poet tells that the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. So, what earth is personified here? Okay. And what can earth teach us? Earth teaches us the power of restoration, power of renewed self. That means, see, in winter season, everything seems dead, right? Everything dies. But just when the spring arrives, all the dried, withered, dead things comes to life, right? They become alive. So earth, the poet says, the earth can teach us the power of restoration. If our older, violent, non-empathic self dies, we will be reborn with a renewed self that will be non-violent, that will be peaceful, that will have mutual respect for one another, and it will be a all new better self. That is why the poet says that we should learn this power from nature. And then at last, the poet tells that I have told my thing. I have given you all the advices. I have told you why you should do and how you should do, what will be the impact. Now it's up to you whether you want to apply that philosophy in your life or not. Hence, the poet says, now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. So I have done my job. Now it's yours to now it's your turn to do your job. Okay? I hope the poem you have I hope you have understood. Let us read the poem once again. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's not stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with fire, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with death. It should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Pablo Neruda. Please read the poem properly and read the explanation. In our next video, we will do the analytical part, critical analysis of the poem. Thank you, students.